So Mike Perry and Nate Diaz are making their return to MMA in the Gina Carano v Ronda Rousey undercard. They're fighting at welterweight, and it's two, in my opinion, two guys way removed from their primes. Of course, both guys are former UFC welterweights. Nate Diaz mostly spent his career at lightweight. Is not known as being a big welterweight, and Mike Perry's not really known as a big welterweight, really. You know, he's stocky, he's got the frame for it, but definitely wasn't known as a guy who was cutting loads of weight to make 170 compared to, Michael Morales or someone like that, right? So in terms of size, they're probably similar sort of sizes. Of course, Nate Diaz is probably a bit taller, but he's got that slim, that skinny, fat, lanky, unathletic frame. And when he was younger, I guess he could get away with that sort of frame. But as he's got older, it's sort of caught up to him, and he's very slow, very hittable. Um, I'm sure he can probably still throw punches in bunches at times, but he's not got the power to keep someone like Mike Perry off of him. And Mike Perry's going to come in and try and walk him down and land those big punches. And Nate Diaz isn't defensively that great at all. In terms of his defense, is actually very basic and almost non-existent. In terms of he'll just have his hands up, but he's not going to move about. He's not going to move his head really. He's not going to move his feet much. He's going to be a pretty stationary target. Granted, Mike Perry doesn't do many of those things that much better than him either. Mike Perry's more athletic, so he can move about a bit more. But it's not like Mike Perry's one to be, super defensively responsible and have his hands up and, do you know what I mean, chin down, elbows in, all these things. He's not really going to do that himself. But at least Mike Perry, at least early on, Mike Perry's going to have the athleticism to at least move about the ring and step out of range when he needs to. But Nate Diaz, in my opinion, is probably not even going to have that. Maybe early on, maybe first round he might, but long term, I really struggle to see him, having any success in there unless he uses his grappling. But Nate Diaz doesn't really use his grappling. I think Nate Diaz probably is a better jiu-jitsu artist than Mike Perry, but when was the last time Nate Diaz used it? He doesn't really. He's a boxer primarily, so this is going to be a boxing fight mostly for as long as it lasts. Mike Perry's by far the harder hitter, and I don't fancy a Nate Diaz even now. When historically Nate Diaz has had a great chin, and he's never really been rocked. I mean, recent years I think he got put in his ass by Jake Paul, but Jake Paul's a lot bigger than Mike Perry. That being said, they're both boxing heavy punchers, and Mike Perry in 4-ounce gloves punching you in the face is not something I'm waiting in line to happen to me, right? So I do think Mike Perry will win this, but it'll be it's not going to be that interesting, honestly, because both guys are old, slow, and past their primes. It's not going to be that interesting, but it'll be cool to see both guys back in the MMA octagon or ring, I guess, whatever. But I think Mike Perry will pretty handedly win this. I don't really see any paths to victory realistically for Nate Diaz. You've got the grappling, but does he use his grappling? He's not going to be quicker. He's not going to be faster. Not going to be stronger. It's going to be a tough fight for Nate Diaz. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Nate Diaz can win this, or do you think it'll be a routine win for Mike Perry when they fight on the Gina Carano Ronda Rousey undercard on Netflix? Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.